Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I'm your host, Jessie Brown, and I am very excited to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 173. If you missed my last episode, number 172, I shared with you all techniques that you can use the next time you're feeling angry. I've been really into writing and brainstorming and learning different techniques and ways, and so I knew I wanted to bring a little bit of that into today's episode. Today's episode is coming out on Halloween. Happy Halloween. It's crazy to think that November is in 2 days. It is currently snowing outside right now for the first time this season, and I've just been sitting in my office, drinking my coffee, working today, staring at the snow. And it just has brought so much gratitude and warmness to my heart. There's just something so peaceful about watching the snowfall that just always makes me really, really happy. So I'll definitely have to listen back to this in like mid-January when it's still snowing and I'm like trying to find the beauty when it's freezing cold out. But nonetheless, for today, I just have so much gratitude on my heart. I'm so excited to be jumping on here. I practiced my speech that I'm giving. So I'm giving a keynote speech at a youth mental health summit. And I practiced my speech this morning, and it just really got me amped up and excited to jump on here and talk with you all. I think it's really empowering to have something that makes you super happy. And for me, that is speaking and sharing. And I never really realized the depths in which it makes me so happy. And so I truly hope that you have or are finding or discovering the things in your life that just make you you and that fill your cup and that make you happy. So very, very excited to be jumping on here with you all for episode number 173. Today we're going to continue with some mental health conversations. And before I dive in, I just want to kind of preface that I'm going to be rewriting my intro to my podcast because a lot of things have shifted and adapted for me since beginning this podcast. And I think as much as there's still similar themes, a lot of what I talk about on here has shifted, and I want to make sure that my branding and what I'm kind of sharing in my introduction is matching what I'm going to be talking about on my podcast episodes. And so I've said before, my behind me is going to change, my intro is going to change, my outro is going to change. We're just growing and evolving at a rate that I never imagined possible, and as much as I had intentionality when starting my podcast, I never in a million years would have believed that I'd still be going after episode 10, yet alone 100, 150, and now on our way to 200 episodes. And so rebranding is happening. It's coming. I'm so excited. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for being here. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm so excited to have you here. And if you're tuning back in, welcome back. So excited to have you here as well. So for today, I want to talk about a subject that is very near and dear to my heart and something that I don't think is talked about often enough. And that is the importance of signs somebody is good for your mental health. I was originally going to do this and identify, ways that people can be bad for your mental health. But I really wanted instead to focus on some signs that someone is good for you and good for your mental health. Because I think that this is something we don't talk about often enough because we might not recognize signs of how somebody's impacting our lives until we're out of those situations or until we have perspective to reflect upon. And so I wrote down 10 different signs that somebody is good for your mental health. And as I was going through this episode, I just started to think of my past and how so many people that used to be in my life were the complete opposite of these things. And so it makes so much sense that my mental health always felt heavier. And again, not to place all the blame into those people's hands because our mental health is also our responsibility. But it makes so much sense now why I kept feeling the same things over and over and over again. Because I was surrounding myself with people that didn't support me and love me in the way that I deserved and that I needed. And so I'm very excited to talk about some of these things. So without further ado, let's dive into some signs that somebody's good for your mental health. The first thing that I wrote down is that They respect your boundaries and they don't try to change them. Obviously, when we talk about like what someone is, that could be your relationship, that could be a friend, that could be a family member. This is just across the board. The people that you invest time into and that take up your time and energy, if they are not respecting your boundaries, right off the hop, they are not good for your mental health. So by boundaries, that could be anything as far as things you don't want to do, things you don't like to do, areas in which you have expressed concern around or trauma around. If someone tries to persuade or change the things that you have vocalized and identified as you not being okay with, they are likely not good for your mental health because they don't have your best interest at heart. This was one that was really hard for me to reflect back on and just recognize. I used to say no often to going out. I developed a lot of anxiety with going out to bars and going out drinking around 20 years old. And I remember I used to have friends that just used to try to persuade me and be like, oh, come on, or stop being like that, or you're no fun anymore, and just would say those things. And I would already feel guilty about saying no, and then that would just make it feel worse. But I knew that if I were to follow through and end up going, I knew I was going to feel like crap anyway. So it was really a lose-lose situation. And so if you're around people that aren't accepting of your boundaries and of saying no and of holding up that wall, they're likely not the best for your mental health in the long run. And I know that this can be hard to recognize because when we love our friends and we love our partner, we love our family members, we often will ebb and flow and like do things that we don't want to do to make them happy. We will put others first. And obviously there's times when, yes, we need to put our stuff aside and we need to think of others first and do things that make them happy. But if it's something that's going to negatively affect your mental health, they're likely not the best people to have in your life. And I know that that can be a hard realization to have, a hard pill to swallow. And so I encourage you throughout all of these to just be mindful and bring awareness, but don't shame yourself. Try to just recognize, okay, who are the people that maybe aren't as good for my mental health as I thought were? And sometimes it's not about eliminating them from our life completely, but just limiting time around them and ensuring that we are sticking up and validating our emotions and our needs. Okay, number 2, I love this one. A sign somebody's good for your mental health is when you feel like you can be fully yourself, you can let your guard down, you don't feel like there's pressure to think about how you're acting. This was the first huge green flag that I felt with my partner now is I'm like, I can be my truest, weirdest, most awkward, outgoing self around this person, and it is celebrated. And in fact, it makes it even better. But there's been relationships in the past where I just didn't feel like I could be my true self, or if I was, I would be made fun of, or I wouldn't be accepted, or whatever it was. And I've had that in friendships too, where I just felt like I had to be a certain person around them. And inevitably, anytime we have to step away from our true self, we're losing a part of us. And we need to know that that's going to make us feel depleted and unaligned in some way, shape, or form. And so if you are around people that you feel like, you can just breathe and let your walls down and be yourself and kick your feet up and just relax, that's a really good sign that those people are ones you want to keep around and that are going to be really good for your mental health. Because if we can't be our truest self, think of how much that's affecting us every single time we go out of alignment. And that also is just important to know that this can shift. Maybe at one point you felt like you could be yourself around people, but then as you've grown and gotten older, maybe you don't really feel that anymore. And I've had that with friendships in my life where we were friends for years and years and years and years, and then eventually it just shifted. And I think that we need to normalize that it's okay to outgrow friendships. It's okay to outgrow relationships. When it starts to become detrimental is when we try to make it work and we try to stay because we have this attachment and this nostalgia and we want to just keep it. But if it's not good for either party in the relationship, sometimes the best thing that we can do is to let go and to walk away and to trust that we will find people that are more in alignment for us at that phase of our life. So that is number 2, is that you can be fully yourself and you can let your guard down. Number 3, which kind of comes out of that one, it's you feel comfortable and safe. If you don't feel comfortable and safe around someone, your nervous system is going to pick up on that. And when our nervous system has identified that a situation, a person, whatever, is not safe, and you are in that heightened state, your mental health is gonna start to feel that. Because if we're around people and we feel like we need to protect ourselves, we need to be on guard, that's really, really harmful for our minds. And so if you have anyone in your life that you feel like when you're around them, you don't feel safe, you don't feel super comfortable, that's probably a really large red flag that they're not the best type of person for your mental health. And I would encourage you to begin to be a little investigator and figure out maybe what it is about them that makes you feel that way. Is this relationship worth you feeling that way? Why are you staying in that friendship, relationship, around that family member, whatever it is, if they make you feel that way? But a sign that someone is good for your mental health is when you feel like you can be safe, that you're comfortable. You just, the best way I can explain it is like you can take a deep breath around them. You don't have to be or act like anybody else. Number 4, they encourage and uplift your goals and your dreams. I have unfortunately had friendships in the past where me winning from their consciousness meant them losing. And so that would come out in a lot of subconscious ways of belittling me, tearing me down, not wanting to see me win. And I recognize that it's really hard to be happy for somebody else if you're not happy within yourself. I've also been on the other side of this where I'd have a really hard time being happy for someone if I was miserable for myself. We are all wired in that way. But if the people that you choose to have in your life and are in your life are not encouraging and supporting and uplifting your goals and your dreams, they're likely not what's best for your mental health, aka they're not what's best for your mental health. Having people that uplift you and want to see you win are the best type of people we can have in our life. There's so many times where we will also subconsciously dim our own light around those people because we don't want to celebrate ourselves out of the fear of them feeling inadequate. All that's doing is holding us back. That is not benefiting anybody by you then also holding yourself back. And so I would encourage you to begin to assess for yourself, okay, who are the people that I feel cheer me on, support me when I share my goals, are there for me, they push me, they uplift me, they inspire me. Those are the people that are going to be good for your mental health. And if you're sitting there thinking like, I don't have those people in my life, I promise you that they do exist. There are people that want to see you win. It is often the people that are the least close to us that want to see us win because it is less of a mirror for them. When I first started my business and my podcasts, it wasn't the people that I thought were my friends that were supportive. It was random strangers on the other side of the world, people I had never met, people I had never engaged with that were cheering me on. And that is still the case to this day. It is mostly people that I do not know that are supportive than the people that I would have considered my friends. And I just genuinely believe the reason for that is because we cannot give something to someone else we do not have for ourselves. And if you are not happy and proud and comfortable in a place in your life, it's really hard to give that to other people. And so I hold tremendous compassion for those people. However, inevitably I had to walk away because it started to really affect my mental health. So again, a sign that someone is good for your mental health is when they encourage you and they support you and they uplift you and they are there for you. Those are the people that you want to have in your corner. Number 5, they listen and validate your emotions. A sign someone is good for your mental health is when they don't leave you feeling gaslit, like you're crazy, like you are the problem all the time, or you did something wrong, or you are the one who has to fix the issue. If someone is there to listen and to validate you, that is a sign that they are good for your mental health. I want to just throw in here at this time, and I had wrote this at the end, but I think it's important to throw in so we have this perspective for all of these. It's also important to recognize on the other side of this how we are giving this to other people. We also need to begin to recognize, am I listening and validating the people in my life? Am I there for them? Am I supporting them? Am I uplifting them? Do I feel like they can be safe around me and comfortable around me and open up around me? This is a double-sided scenario, right? This isn't just, yes, this is from our perspective, the people around us, but we also have to begin to recognize how are we showing up for other people in our life. And if we are not giving these things to others, we can't really expect them in return. And so to listen and to validate, I also want to ensure that you are recognizing, are you listening and validating to the people in your life? Are you being good for their mental health? One of the biggest reasons that I think friendships crumble, relationships crumble, is because we don't feel seen and heard. And I think so many of us have so much childhood trauma around emotional validation. And when we get into these relationships and we feel like we're not being listened to or validated, that's just poked so much louder, not because all the responsibilities on that person, but because we have all of this stuff from our past that just sits there. And so when we have people that we feel validate us and accept us and listen to us, it just feels really good. We all want to be validated and heard. And so a sign that someone is going to be good for your mental health is if you feel like they listen to you and they validate you and that they genuinely care about you. Okay, number 6, you feel full, not depleted after being around them. This is a huge one energetically. If after you hang out with someone, you feel depleted, you feel tired, you feel drained, you feel lost, you feel sad, energetically, they're probably not the best for your mental health. Those are typically the people that gossip, that are negative, that are, the world is out to get them. They suck the energy out of you. But if you're around people that uplift you, make you feel good, make you happy, make you laugh, make you feel loved, and you feel energized after you hang out with them and you just feel good, that's likely a really good sign that they are good for your mental health. And so it's really important to notice energetically how you feel after you spend time with certain people. I can identify some people that every time I hang out with them, I just want to take a nap every time after because I'm just drained. And then there's other people that after I hang out with them, I'm like, when we hanging out again? Because I love the way that I feel when I'm around you. That's a huge sign, is how you feel when you are around them. And yes, again, this can ebb and flow and people have good days and bad days, but you know for the most part where people sit and how you feel when you're around them. And so a big sign someone's good for your mental health is when you feel empowered and full and good after you invest time with them. Number 7, they are understanding and compassionate. So this kind of comes back to the boundaries one, but if you express something, you say how you're feeling, you vocalize something, and they are compassionate and understanding and give you space and give you love, they are likely good for your mental health. But if they are sitting there and they are blaming you, ignoring you, giving you the silent treatment, gossiping about you, not allowing you to be a human and to feel things, they're likely not going to be what's best for you in the long run for your mental health. I think we've all had experiences where we've maybe been in friendships where we feel like that person just doesn't get me. They don't make me feel good. They're not understanding. This is the example again about like going out and me not wanting to go out and people just taking that very, very personally instead of having compassion and understanding that, no, I just don't want to because it doesn't make me feel good. It has nothing to do with you or our friendship. I just personally don't want to do that. And so I think that if we are also not being understanding and compassionate to the people in our lives, we need to ask ourselves why that is. Why are we not giving them the permission to express their needs and being receptive to that? Number 8, you don't gossip when you're together. If you have a friendship where there's a difference between venting and expressing and always gossiping. There's a huge difference between getting things off your chest and vocalizing and processing through and just constantly gossiping about other people about the same things to take that pressure off of you and put it externally. If you are with someone in a friendship, in a relationship, again, any person, and you're just gossiping the whole time, that's not going to be very good for your mental health. Again, energetically gossiping, that's one of the lowest things that we can do. When you're sitting there just negatively talking about other people all the time, there's no benefit to it. If there's an issue, and again, I'm guilty of this too. I'm not going to sit here and say like, I never gossip. I've never done that before. Not true. However, I'm so mindful of it now, and I notice when it's happening, because at the same time, it's like, how is this helping the situation? If we're sitting here gossiping about somebody, what is it we're gossiping about? What is the actual issue? Am I tending to the issue, or am I just talking about it because it's fun? When we gossip, what it does is it builds a bond with that person because we're agreeing about something. But if there's no actual constructive benefit to those conversations, it's likely going to deplete your mental health down the line. And so if you're not gossiping when you're together, and again, you're just focusing on other things, on being together, on things you have in common, whatever, that's a good sign that somebody's good for your mental health. Number 9, you look forward to seeing them again. This is again kind of like that energetic one, but if you are genuinely excited to see that person again and you can't wait, a part of you in your nervous system is communicating with you. You feel good around that person. Our body is so much quicker to pick up on things than our mind is. And when we feel good and we feel excited and we want to see someone again, that's a really, really good sign that they are good for our mental health. I think so many of us can think of maybe 1 to 2 people in our minds where we're like, I love being around them. I can't wait to see them again. I enjoy investing time with them. And if you don't have those people, I encourage you to just be aware of that too, and know that those people do exist. And sometimes it does take getting toxic people out of our life that aren't serving us out of our life so that we can begin to attract people that we want to invest time with. And last but not least, number 10, they're honest and accountable. If you have somebody in your life that is like able to have enough self-awareness to be honest and to be held accountable and to express their truth, even if it's vulnerable, even if it's hard, even if it makes them look a certain type of way, and they're able to hold that accountability, that's a really good sign that they're going to be good for your mental health, because they are self-aware enough to know and to take ownership when something falls on them. So many friendships crumble because we push the blame externally. Instead, we go gossip about it, or we complain about it, or we avoid it. But if we're able to just actually lean into being vulnerable with each other and be accountable and to be honest, that friendship is going to become closer. I did an episode last week or the week before all about vulnerability and the power that it has in our relationships across the board. And if you're with somebody who allows you to just not take the blame all the time, because again, some of our trauma responses are to just take all the blame for stuff. I know I'm guilty of this, and it leaves my mental health feeling depleted. And so if you have someone in your life that is honest and accountable, that is likely a really, really good sign that they are going to be good for your mental health. So you guys, those are the 10 signs that someone's going to be good for your mental health. Obviously, there's other signs as well. Those were just ones that I had kind of thought of. But I want to just validate again that who you invest spending time with is so important, and it will dictate the quality of your life. And so I think it's important to make sure that you ask yourself, is this person making me feel these things? Am I doing this in return for other people? Am I what's best for other people's mental health? Or do I maybe have some self-awareness and work and healing that I need to do so that I can show up as a better friend, a better partner, a better family member, whatever it is? Know that none of us are perfect, and we're gonna make mistakes, and we're gonna have to be honest and grow through it. And there's times in the past where I was not the bestest of friend, and I've also been on the other side of that where I've had people that weren't the nicest to me. But it's how can we begin to recognize this cycle from here forward? How can we begin to do the work from here forward and to make those changes and to make those shifts so that we can raise the quality of our life? So I genuinely hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Happy Halloween, last day of October. I am so excited to talk with you guys on Thursday. It is going to be November, which is absolutely crazy. So I hope you guys are all having an incredible week, and I look forward to chatting with you then. Bye, you guys.